Alright, today is Friday, May 7th, 2021. It's about 5:45 a.m. and this is what we're looking at today. Kind of opening in yesterday's range, right at the edge of value here, slightly below. We'll hit our daily chart and see what we've kind of got marked out here. We're in kind of a little bit of a weird area. We are slightly above these bar highs here to the left, so also back in this little value area from March. So my expectation would be to either reject this area here, work back up through these highs and see if we can again push up into this high here. 15. What we did overnight so far is come back into this value area from Monday, and we had this low tick failure here and a rejection and push back up into yesterday's value, and then we pushed down, had a nice little supply push, and now here we are back again testing back into the point of control here, and this is the point of control from Monday, and so likely downside targets are going to be to hit this point of control for Monday and also to test back into this low volume node here, possibly testing. If we do get down this far, we're going to have some issues here coming back into this range from last Friday. A lot of bulk trade, and this was accepted price, and that's down to 63.91, so it could happen, but it's a little ways away. Upside, we're going to be testing. First of all, we need to get back up into value, and then we have this value range, this large fat profile here, and then if we can get up into there, we should be able to move up into the highs, and then testing back up into the value area from Wednesday. I drew this composite profile for basically this last swing low to swing high, so we can see that the bulk of the trade is right here around 65.31. And this has been the most accepted price here in this area. So we got a little ways to move to the downside, but again, want to see how these lows are handled here. This major demand area here from Thursday, so I'll be watching this area, and this, you can see that's where we tested down below this, rejected and moved higher, and then again this low tick failure here. So here's our 1 minute. We can see that not a whole lot has happened. It's fairly balanced overnight trade. In the overnight, we did have a pretty nice supply push down through the highs here. This is where we put in our overnight high at 65.18 or around there. Overnight low down to 64.37. So we're kind of right now looking at where the volume has come in. This is where we're seeing the large volume is at this lower side here, this lower side of range. Large volume coming in here. Once again here, once we push down, large volume and demand coming in here and again here. So that kind of looks bullish to me. If we can hold these levels and push higher, we will see. This is an important concept that I wanted to make a note of while this was setting up and happening, because this is something that I would take all of the time and really mess up the idea. So looking for this low tick area here, and then push higher, and then to fill in this space, so a long trade at here. So what I would talk myself into this trade by saying, well, here's this little pin bar that's pushed down below these lows and then pushed up, so to get long here, and then look what happened, I get ripped out here. And I passed on this trade because it's not really valid at all when we're paying attention to the levels and where the volume is. So we can see that the point of control of this profile here is here. So really all we're doing is pushing back down into these lows here. And so then we say, well, then we push up into here. So this is a test of this area, but it's really not, because it's actually just a rejection of this level. This little flip area here that we created. This is the upper side of value, lower side of value, accepted price, and then we come here, push down on a real tiny increase in volume, but then what we do is we hold it from the underside. So we hold here. So this is where I would be long, you know, just sweating the trade, and then I just get ripped out. But so just that's something I feel like I'm starting to get a much better handle on. The short trade makes more sense because we were pushing down into this volume likely to break these lows here. You know, so you know, anywhere in here, obviously hindsight 2020, but it did make more sense. I wanted to see how we were going to trade these lows. I mean, I think it makes sense to start being a little bit more aggressive and saying, well, I want to see, but the expectation is that, well, if we're likely to test those lows, get in here on this little pushback up, and we can see that here. You know, getting in here, anywhere here, back into this little tiny supply zone here, and then being in at 50 to see what happens when we go down and break these or test these lows here. Something else I find myself doing, which is probably pretty normal for traders, but every single time there is a large imbalance or a big trade that would have been really nice and it worked out and I didn't take it, I get frustrated. And I guess it's actually kind of a good thing, because I then go back and I say, what did I miss on this trade? What did I miss before the bottom fell out of this thing? As to how can I identify this for the next time? What were the clues? What were the signals? And so I guess that's a good thing. And the never-ending frustration is I go back and forth and saying, well, I should just accept the way it is and relax a little bit. But then if I'm just kind of complacent and relaxing, then I'm not pushing myself to get better and understand and grow. So my frustration and dissatisfaction with how I am is what makes me want to be a much better trader. So I tried to get short here. This was going to be a real key area here if we were going to hold this area and push lower, and then go down to break the lows. And we put in this large amount of volume here on the push up, and then this is when I tried to get short right at here at 37. Immediately we got this breakdown and to come down and test the lows. So at this point I'm a little less leery. I'm a little more leery about trying to get the short on here to break, but possibly still valid. But then we came down on this spike down and put in even more volume. So I'm gonna just watch now. So I'm in a short here, pushed up again and came up and high ticked the high here and put in this large volume here. So I'm gonna see what happens after we test this volume down here, and then expectation is to come down into here and break these lows all the way down into the 64 even area, into this area. We'll see if we get there. My D-risk will be, I'll be watching that pretty closely on this, into this volume here, and there she goes. So now I really need this to hold on this push down. Otherwise, we're going to see if those buyers come back in. At this point, though, I don't want the price really to come back anywhere up into here. I mean, yeah, it could and come back and spike me out there, but we'll see. So I'm going to lock in. It's definitely some ticks here. This low volume node and also this large volume here. So hopefully that really should hold for this to go lower. and still targeting that round number there. I'm just going to lock this in here. See if we can get this final push down. If I get taken out, that's okay. I don't want this pulling back up all the way up into that volume, so if I get lucky, I get lucky. Looks like I'm going to get taken out here. Yep. This volume here is very likely to hold, but if not, I don't want this coming all the way back up. On the management side, I'm still looking at, well, should I have taken it off into this bar low? But my expectation is that this is going to test and flush through to get into these bar highs here. So yeah, I lost out. I mean, could have had it at 05, cost myself at least 10 ticks, but I was shooting for the round number, and I thought that was very likely to push into those bar highs. And the 63.96, so 64, and it's also, you know, it's definitely likely. So, and I think I got taken out at 14, which was basically the very high of the pullback, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, I guess we came up to 18. So this volume that I was talking about, this held exactly. So if I put my stop anywhere behind here, but you know, that's like a 17 tick drawdown, so that's never fun or comfortable to sit through. So but now here we are, and we're very likely to flush these lows here. But you know, I'll take 24 ticks. That's great. Good start to the morning. And now we can see that we've broken down into that tested the upper side of value over here, and like I talked about in the pre-market, very likely to come back and test this area. So now it's really hard to say how are we going to treat this. I would expect a pretty strong reaction off of this upper side of value here back from last Friday. We could easily push down, but you can also see this, we had a pretty strong demand push out of this area, and this imbalance created new value higher, and that's kind of where we're sitting now. So not a whole lot for me to do here. Could start looking for counter context. That would be very aggressive for trades back in to fill this space in, but I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to sit and watch and see what happens. When we're getting fairly close to the open now, to about 10 minutes before, but we'll see if there's any new opportunities. So being that downside targets and expectations were met, just textbook perfectly into this value area that I talked about earlier. Not saying that necessarily context had shifted to the long side, but definitely expectation is to respect this value area. If we didn't, you know, you would expect to push down and then to come back down and test this area further, but that didn't happen. So what did happen is we got a fairly significant push of this lows, which was the overnight low, and we put that low in, and at that point I was definitely open to the idea of an aggressive long trade. It just nothing set up for it. This thing ripped, and it just kept working higher, no pullbacks of any kind. As far as any possible setup I could see is after the break of this volume here, taking an aggressive, just entering blind here, managing my stop below, you know, so anywhere in here in this 06 number, but then stop has to be down all the way down to 89 or so, and then managing that really tightly. And of course, in this case, it would have worked out. What I would have liked to have seen is kind of some kind of push higher and then a retrace back to this volume. But then you have to manage it kind of similarly, because then that has to hold. And then basically we just ran and ran. And this last push was just almost 100 ticks on super high, very high volume. And that's what we're looking at now. And then now here we have this volume coming in, pretty much the highest volume of the day after nearly 100 tick move up. So is that profit taking? Is that further accumulation for a move higher? Hard to say. But we're also pushing up into this area. Previous days, we're back in previous days value, and we're getting close to testing the point of control. This supply here is what we're coming into as well. So I'm going to kind of just sit and watch and try to be patient, and definitely possible now that we can work back down into this major area of the day's point of control and value here. And so we're sitting at some interesting levels, but we'll see what happens. Still no new trades for me. Just kind of been staring at this, just huge, massive swings up and down. I was paying attention here at these highs. This is right around yesterday's point of control, and came up and tested and rejected sharply. And what we put in was this very large volume here, and made the new high. And we didn't quite come up to test the overnight high yet, but then this was the largest bar almost of the session, and this was a very sharp rejection of unfair price. So at this point, I wanted to try to find some kind of short setup, and I just couldn't pull the trigger on it. There was some nice support for volume bars. Also would have to take some pretty wide stops here. I was thinking right around this 65 or the 97 when we broke down here. Supporting volume here, if we can stay below this volume, it makes sense, and then it just really broke down. So it would have been a really nice trade to come back down to the top side of value here, so 50. So there was 50 plus ticks in that trade for sure. So I am watching this now though for a possible long setup. If we can hold this area, we've tested back up into here. We have trouble above, so some kind of target up into the 72 to fill this space in if we respect this value area, but still watching. We'll see what happens. So how quickly things can change. So we get this imbalance pushed down, and now it seems that we are back down into this value area. So longs really aren't on the table for me. We did test up into this area, but then respected this level. So we're going to see what happens if anything changes, any volume comes in, but we very likely could test down to the low side of this value here. But going to wait and see. The volume's really dying down, and so until something changes, I won't be taking anything. Well, I tried to take a long here on this small imbalance push up here, and we can see that the concept for this trade is we don't have the best high here, but we had this imbalance push up, and then I was trying to get filled at 43 and I didn't get there. Ideally I would have liked to have been anywhere in here to be above this volume here to come back, and now we've broken these highs, so I'll probably take this order out. Well, yeah, I'll definitely have to cancel my order. That's too bad. And the trade idea on this would be to come back up and hold, this, we'd be holding this value and up, and my target would be in front of these bar lows here at 70, 71. So that would have been nice. And so here we are now. My expectation would be to hold these highs here, and yeah, of course we can come back in all the way back down into this 42 area, but ideally hold these and then flush these highs here and then up into these untested bar lows here. Too bad. It was close to getting it, and we still don't know what's going to happen, but it was worth it, and I definitely would have been able to get my risk off. Really too bad, a missed opportunity on that trade, but what can you do? So looking back at it now, pulling my order after this high tick here makes sense in a way from a very conservative standpoint, but it also gives a little bit more conviction to the upside trade, because if the bears were strong, then price likely wouldn't be getting up into here and would respect and have moved lower. So yes, on one hand it's a high tick, but also it's showing that we have demand strength here, and the major level here not to break is up in here. So this is what I would really, if this had high ticked this area into this fresh space, I would be less likely to still want to take the long. But so anywhere here back into this area, into the 41, 42, 43 would have still been a great long. And as I mentioned before, my target on this trade would have been 71 of this untested bar lows and this fresh supply. And exactly, so man, anywhere from a 25 to 30 tick trade I missed out on. But you know, good problem to have. I'm reading the market really well. Only one trade today, and I don't know, I feel like I should probably just call it a day. It's Friday, volume starting to decrease, and to me there's not a whole lot of space left, so we're likely going to be getting stuck in this area without any large new volume coming in. So we'll see. I don't know, I'll probably watch for a little bit, but I also don't want to get antsy and feel like I need to trade. You know, missing this this opportunity off the drop here, that's, you know, I'm always frustrated every day because I just see I'm so close, I'm reading well, so many of my opportunities are working out, and then this one was just a fantastic trade. So alright, so I took one more long trade here off we had this kind of push up and we were holding the top side of this value, so I'm thinking that if we can get back up into this 6504 high tick area, it's definitely a more aggressive trade, and the volume's kind of dying off. I wouldn't be surprised if I get taken out on this trade, but we'll see. I'm already taking it to break even, so looking like we're probably going to get taken out. Yeah, so I got taken out. It was really pushing up. I was trying to get this to flush these highs here, and it just slammed down and took me out, break even. So which is likely to be just kind of a false break before the push higher, but I wasn't willing to take any more risk on, or, you know, now we just kind of chop around. It seems like, you know, the volume is dying, so trade opportunities are few and far between at this point, and I think I'm gonna call it a day. So thank you. This has been a super long video anyway, so bye-bye. Okay, I said goodbye, but I wanted to follow up on this trade I took. So I did end up taking it off break even, of course, and had this shakeout down, and price came back down to this demand area, which is also to be expected at 70. So that's the kind of heat that I wasn't willing to take on the trade, and then want to look at the target that I mentioned, this high tick here at 6504, and here we came up to the target at 06. So this is a frustrating day. Just trading really well. Context read is just spot on. So, you know, that was another 20 tick winner. Only took, you know, one other trade other than that, and definitely missed some nice opportunities. So that's it.